Hello guys, we are from group 3. We will tell you about function, mappings, limits, limit theorems, and limit involving the point at infinity. The member of our group, first Randy Gian Baskara, and the second Lia Alfiana, and the last is Wafik Faiz. First of all, we will discuss about function of a complex variable. And the definition of function of a complex variable is, let S be a set of complex numbers. A function f defined on S is a rule that assigns to each z in S a complex number w. The number w is called the value of f at z and is denoted by fz, that is, w equals fz. The set S is called the domain of definition of f, and the example is fz equals 1 over z, with the domain f equals z in complex number, and z is not equal 0. There are two forms of complex function. The first form is fz equals fx plus iy equals u x, y plus iv x, y. When u and v are real-valued functions of real variables x and y. And the example is fz equals z squared equals x plus iy squared equals x squared minus y squared plus I times 2xy with u x, y equals x squared minus y squared and v x, y equals 2xy. And the second form is fz equals f r e powered I theta equals u r, theta plus iv r, theta. With the name, we can call it polar form. And the example is fz equals z squared equals r squared times e powered I2 theta equals r squared cos 2 theta plus ir squared sin 2 theta with u r, theta equals r squared cos 2 theta and v r, theta equals r squared sin 2 theta. And then the example of function of a complex variable. Find u r, theta and v r, theta from fz equals z powered by a half. And the solution of fz equals z powered by a half. We know that fx plus iy equals x plus iy. Then we get fx plus iy equals x plus iy powered by a half equals x powered by a half minus y powered by a half plus I over 2 times xy. Then we can change this form to polar form. Then we get f r e powered by e theta equals r e powered I theta powered by a half plus r powered by a half cos a half theta plus I r powered by a half sin a half theta. Hence, we get u r, theta equals r powered by a half cos a half theta, and we get v r, theta equals r powered by a half sin a half theta. After this, we will discuss about mappings.
The next is mappings. The image of a point Z in the domain of definition S is the point W is equal Fz, and the set of images of all points in a set T that is contained in S is called the image of T. The image of the entire domain of definition S is called the range of F. The inverse image of a point W is the set of all points Z in the domain of definition of F that have W as their image. The variables x and y on F can be transformed into u and v by choosing either u or v to be a constant c and expressing one of u or v in variables c and x or y, and then analyze the geometrical representation of the obtained equation. The next is definition of limit. Let f be a function defined in some neighborhood of z0 with the possible exception of the point z0 itself. We say that the limit of fz as z approach z0, this case is like independent of the path, is the number w0 if absolute value of fz minus w0 approach to 0 as absolute value of z minus z0 approach to 0, and we write limit z approach to z0 to fz equals w0. Equivalently, we say that w0 is the limit of f as z approach z0 if for any given epsilon more than 0 there exists a delta more than 0 such that absolute value of z minus z0 less than delta implies absolute value of fz minus w0 less than epsilon. This definition is like a limit in calculus 1. For example, limit z approach 1 minus I z bar square minus 2 is equals minus 2 plus 2i. You just substitute the value of z to fz to find the limit value above.
Okay, we go to the next submaterial, that is theorems on limit. There are two theorems on limit. Theorem 1. Suppose that we have a complex number z is equals to x plus iy, and function of z is equals to uxy plus ivxy, zo is equals to xo plus iyo, and wo is equals to uo plus ivo. Then limit from z attend to zo of function z is equals to wo if and only if limit from the order pair xy attend to order pair xoyo of uxy is equals to uo, and limit from order pair xy attend to xoyo of vxy is equals to vo. Or we can say in theorem 1, if we have a function that has limit from z attend to zo, then the limit's value is unique. This is the proof for theorem 1. For each positive number epsilon, there exists delta 1 and delta 2 is also positive, such that the absolute value of u minus uo is less than epsilon over 2 whenever the square root of x minus xo squared plus y minus yo squared is greater than 0 and less than delta 1. And also, for the absolute value of v minus vo is less than epsilon over 2 whenever the square root of x minus xo squared plus y minus yo squared is greater than 0 and less than delta 2. Suppose delta be any positive number smaller than delta 1 and delta 2, since the absolute value of u plus iv minus uo plus ivo is equals to the absolute value of u minus uo plus I times v minus vo. We got it from we collect u with uo and v with vo, and it's gonna be less than or equal the absolute value of u minus uo plus v minus vo, and the square root of x minus xo squared plus y minus yo squared is equals to the absolute value of x minus xo plus I times y minus yo. And we can change this form be the absolute value of x plus iy minus xo plus iyo. So, from the statements before that say that the absolute value of u plus iv minus uo plus ivo is less than epsilon over 2 plus epsilon over 2 is equals epsilon whenever the absolute value of x plus iy minus xo plus iyo is greater than 0 and less than delta. So, the limit 1 is hold. Next, let us now start with the assumption that limit 1 holds. With the assumption, we know that for each positive number epsilon, there is a positive number delta such that the absolute value of u plus iv minus uo plus ivo is less than epsilon whenever the absolute value of x plus iy minus xo plus iyo is greater than 0 and less than delta. From those, we have the two conditions. The first is the absolute value of u minus uo is less than or equal the absolute value of u minus uo plus I times v minus vo is equals to the absolute value of u plus iv minus uo plus ivo. And same with the absolute value of v minus vo is less than or equal the absolute value of u minus uo plus I times v minus vo equals the absolute value of u plus iv minus uo plus ivo. And we got the absolute value of x plus iy minus xo plus iyo is equals to the absolute value of x minus xo plus I times y minus yo. We got it from we collect x with x and y with yo. And it is equals to the square root of x minus xo squared plus y minus yo squared. Hence, it follows from the inequalities 5 and inequalities 6 that the absolute value of u minus uo is less than epsilon and the absolute value of v minus vo is less than epsilon too, whenever the square root of x minus xo squared plus y minus yo squared is greater than 0 and less than delta. Thus, limit 2 is completed. Next, theorem 2. Suppose the limit from z tend to zo of function z is equals to wo. In here, wo is a constant, and limit from z tend to zo of big F z is equals to big wo. Then limit from z tend to zo of fz plus big Fz is equals to wo plus big wo. And then limit from z tend to zo of function of z times big Fz is equals to wo times big wo. If big wo is not equal to 0, so the limit z tend to zo of Fz over big Fz is equals to wo over big wo. This theorem can be proved directly by using the definition of the limit of a function of a complex variable. But with the aid of Theorem 1, it follows almost immediately from theorems on limit of real-valued functions of the two real variables. Okay, next we go to the example. Calculate limit from z tend to I of z squared plus 1 over z minus I. The solution: limit z tend to I, z squared plus 1 over z minus 1 equals to limit z tend to I of z plus I times z minus I over z minus I. We got it from the factorization of z squared plus 1 to be z plus I times z minus I. And then we can simplify, and we get limit from z tend to I of z plus I is equals to 2I. We go to the next submaterial, that is limits involving point at infinity. It is sometimes convenient to include with complex plane the point of infinity and to use limits involving it. The complex plane together with this point is called the extended complex plane. To visualize the point at infinity, one can think of the complex plane as passing through the equator of a unit sphere centered at the origin. As you can see in figure, the origin is symbolized with point O. To each point z in the plane, there corresponds exactly one point P on the surface of the sphere. The point P is the point where the line through z and the North Pole N intersects the sphere. In like manner, to each point P on the surface of the sphere, other than the North Pole N, there correspond exactly one point z in here in the plane. By letting the point N of the sphere correspond to the point at infinity, we obtain a one-to-one correspondence between the points of the sphere and the points of the extended complex plane. The sphere is known as the Riemann sphere, and the correspondence is called a stereographic projection. Observe that the exterior of the unit circle centered at the origin in the complex plane corresponds to the upper hemisphere with the equator and the point N dilated. Moreover, for each small positive number epsilon, points at infinity in the complex plane exterior to the circle, the absolute value of z is equals to 1 over epsilon correspond to points on the sphere close to n. Thus, the set the absolute value of z is greater than 1 over epsilon and neighborhood epsilon or neighborhood of infinity. And then let us agree that in referring to a point z in here, we mean a point in the finite plane. In the limits involving the point at infinity, there is a theorem that say if ZO and WO are points in the Z and W planes respectively, then there are three cases in this theorem. The first case is limit from z tend to ZO of fz is equals to infinite if and only if limit from z tend to ZO of 1 over fz is equals to 0. The second case is limit from z tend to infinite of fz is equals to wo if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of f 1 over z is equals to wo. And the last case, if we have limit z tend to infinite of fz is equals to infinite if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of 1 over f 1 over z is equals to 0. Okay, we have the proof for the theorem before. For the first case is limit from z tend to ZO of function z is equals to infinite if and only if limit from z tend to ZO of 1 over fz is equals to 0. First, we have the definition of the limit, that is, for every epsilon positive, there exists delta positive such that the absolute value of function z is greater than 1 over epsilon whenever the absolute value of z minus ZO is greater than 0 and less than delta. That is, point w equals to function z lies in the epsilon neighborhood. The absolute value of w greater than 1 over epsilon of infinity whenever z lies in the dilated neighborhood of the absolute value of z minus ZO greater than 0 and less than delta. From the sentence 1, we have that the absolute value of 1 over fz minus 0, because ZO is 0, less than epsilon whenever the absolute value of z minus ZO is greater than 0 and less than delta. Thus, second of limits in case 1 is held. Next, we have the proof for case 2, that is limit from z tend to infinite of function z is equals to wo if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of function 1 over z is equals to wo. Same with the proof before, we have the definition of the limit, that is for every epsilon positive there exists delta positive such that the absolute value of fz minus wo is less than epsilon whenever the absolute value of z is greater than 1 over delta. From those, we know that z is equals to f 1 over z and ZO is wo. So, we have that the absolute value of f1 over z minus wo is less than epsilon whenever the absolute value of z minus 0 is greater than 0 and less than delta. Thus, second of limit in case 2 is held. For the proof in case 3, limit z tend to infinite of function z equals to infinity if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of 1 over f1 over z is equals to 0. First, we have the definition of the limit. For every epsilon positive, there exists delta positive such that the absolute value of fz less than 1 over epsilon whenever the absolute of z is greater than 1 over delta. From this, we have z is 1 over fz and zo is 0. So, we have that the absolute value of 1 over fz minus 0 is less than epsilon whenever the absolute value of z minus 0 greater than 0 and less than delta. Thus, the second of limit in case 3 is whole. Next, we have the example of limits involving the point at infinity. First, observe that limit from z tend to minus 1 of function I z plus 3 over z plus 1 equals to infinity. Remember with the theorem in case 1, limit z tend to 0 of function z equals to infinity if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of 1 over fz equals to 0. So in here, we can change the function iz plus 3 over z plus 1. It's gonna be z plus 1 over iz plus 3. So the limit from z tend to minus 1 from z plus 1 over iz plus 3 equals to 0. Next, we go to the second example. Observe that limit from z tend to infinity of function 2z plus I over z plus 1 equals to 2. In here, this limit form is same with the theorem in case 2. That is, limit from z tend to infinity of function z equals to wo, where wo is a constant. And in this case, the constant is 2. And that if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of function 1 over z is equals to wo. So we can change the form function 2z plus I over z plus 1 be 1 over this function. So we have limit z tend to 0 of function 2 plus iz over 1 plus z. It is from the simplification is equals to 2. Okay, the last example is observe that limit from z tend to infinity of function 2z cubed minus 1 over z squared plus 1 equals to infinite. This form is same with the third case in theorem before. That is limit from z tend to infinity of function z equals to infinity if and only if limit from z tend to 0 of 1 over f1 over z is equals to 0. And then we change the form the function in the problem and to the simplification, so we get limit from z tend to 0 of function z plus z cubed over 2 minus z cubed equals to 0.